If you guys are looking for fast, cheap, reliable coins for your college football 25 team, check out my coin sponsors at MMOXP and use discount code MONEYSHOT for 5% off your order. Link in the description below.
The champ is here!
Welcome back, Money Team. This is Madden Money Shots. Another college cheese as always. In today's video, stick skill is not always the most important thing when it comes to winning a lot of games, as I'm going to show you guys 4 different things that you should take very seriously in every single game that you play. These are 4 things that can give you a huge advantage to win games every single time you pick up the sticks. But before I do, as always, if you guys want to see more videos like this, please make sure to be a subscriber, hit the like button, let me know in the comment section. And if you guys need more help and more money plays, you can download any of my ebooks instantly simply by clicking links in the description or the top pinned comment, as I go over things like this in my ebooks as well. Now, all the things I'm going to show you guys today, I'm going to show you them in the order that you should be doing them, starting with some game settings, which can be found on the home screen. And I'm glad that I actually am going to do this video, because I saw a couple things that even I didn't have set right in my settings that I changed while making this video. So in every single one of these steps, I'm going to show you guys my personal setup, starting with game options here, which all these at the top here don't really have nothing to do with anything. But once I get down to about the coin toss setting, I pretty much always put this to kick first, because my goal is to try to get a lead in the first half and then extend it to the point where the game's pretty much over if I can get the ball to start at the second half. Also go with win, but I don't find that second choice really matters too much. When it comes to kicking, I also go with tap and tap. So if you're still using tap and hold, I mean, I'm not the best at kicking anyway, but I still feel like tap and tap is something, since I've been using it for so long, that I'm more comfortable with. When it comes to passing mechanics, there really is no right answer here. I've pretty much used all 3 of these, from revamp passing this year to placement accuracy. Ultimately, right now, I'm using placement accuracy though, because I feel like it gives you the most control, but I don't even know if that's necessarily accurate, as the strengths of revamp passing versus the strengths of placement accuracy make both of these very good options. And if you're new to placement accuracy, just use placement, because placement is actually very good as well, as this one was probably my favorite. But like I said, these 3 here, I could recommend all 3 of them for different reasons, as they all have their strengths and they all have their weaknesses. I just don't recommend classic passing. So this would be the one that I wouldn't want you to do. But if you can, like revamp passing, whether like placement accuracy, whatever, they're all pretty much good. When it comes to pass lead increase though, I like to go with small, and I like to go with a higher reticle speed. So I got small right now with a reticle speed of about 10, but sometimes I use medium, and if I use medium, I'm going to lower it to like a 3 or a 4. So there's really a couple different ways to do that. But my recommendation right now, if you're new to using placement accuracy, I would say small, and I typically go around 7. It's just recently that I moved it up to 10. So these are all pretty good options. As far as reticle visibility and all that stuff doesn't really matter. When it comes to gameplay helpers, this is an area where I recently had this wrong, and then when I came in to do this video, I realized that I had one of these wrong. But I typically go with auto flip off, and that's because 90% of the defenses that I use, I like to control where the blitz is coming from. I'll flip the play based off of that. Or if I know the open side of the field, which typically gets more action, I'll flip the play so that I can Mabel the open side of the field. Things like that that you really can't do unless you have auto flip off. So I typically leave that off. When it comes to defensive ball hawk, this is a mechanic that just makes sure that when a computer-controlled defensive player gets in a position to make a play, they're kind of doing it in a way that you could click on and get an interception. So obviously you want that on, because they'll basically set themselves up to make it easier for you to get picks. After that, defensive heat seeker assist. This was one that I had off, and I don't know why, because I didn't realize that I had it off, but this is very important to me, and this is something that you always want to make sure you have on. And you also want to make sure that your defensive heat seeker window size is all the way up to 200%. Not a lot of people know that, because when you turn this on, I think it typically starts at 100% and it looks like it's all the way up, but no, you can turn this all the way up to 200%. And what these 2 features do is it creates like a magnetism that steers you towards the ball carrier, making it much easier to get tackles. So it's very important to have this on. Like I said, I had this off, and I was noticing now that I put it on that I was missing a lot of tackles. After that, we have switch stick delay. This one here, I leave it on slight. This is really just so that if I'm setting up my defense before a play starts, that if my opponent hikes the ball, I don't automatically switch stick to somebody else. That's probably the best way to go. If you don't have this turned on, say you have this off, or you have disabled switch stick, those are big mistakes. But definitely have this to either slight or moderate. Moderate, I feel like, is going to slow down switch sticking during the play, where slight feels like it's designed just to make sure that you don't accidentally switch stick at the start of the play. And then I also put defensive switch assist on, which is something that I'm not sure whether I like it on or off. This here, I typically have off. Once again, it's a control thing, where if I switch on to a guy, I want to have control right away so I can try to jump a route or jump a ball. Where if you turn this on, it sounds like it's going to delay it a little bit, so that that you don't have control right away. So that basically when you switch on to a defender, that it won't allow you to, if you say you think you're switching on to the safety, but you actually switch on to the cornerback, and obviously you're going to be moving in the wrong direction. If this is off, you might take yourself out of the play and just give a one-play touchdown. But if it's on, it'll control to a point where it'll give you a second to realize, okay, I'm on this player, and then you can make an adjustment. But like I said, if you switch to the right player, it's going to slow you down to be able to try to make the move that you want to make. So this one here is got to go either way. But like I said, I typically have it off, but I'm going to try this on. I'll let you guys know in a future video how that turns out. After that, the next three things can be done in game and sometimes out of game. Like you can actually do coaching adjustments. If you're in a dynasty, you can do that before you get into a game. But in certain game modes, like the game mode I play, which is Road to College Football Playoffs, you have to pause the game and go to your coaching session and then go to depth chart. Now, your depth chart is really important when it comes to setting up your depth chart properly to maximize the talent on your roster. The two most important things are going to be speed across the entire board in pretty much every position, with the exception of maybe offensive linemen, and also abilities. Physical and mental abilities are probably going to be a premium. After that, the third most important thing is really based off of individual position. When it comes to quarterback, I have my fastest and my best quarterback when it comes to both abilities and speed. After that, I would also say things like throw power and accuracy are the most important, which I'll go ahead and I'll try to move over here real quick, as the throw power of this quarterback is only an 89, and I might have passed. Yeah, the throw power is right there. And then you also have your thresholds, which is going to be your short, your mid, and your deep. Now, the threshold for quarterbacks to be consistently accurate is going to be 85. So luckily, one of the reasons I chose this team is because this guy has an 85 on all three, making him a very accurate quarterback. After that, when it comes to running backs, it's really just about speed. If I go all the way to the bottom here, I got a 94 speed guy who must have been injured throughout the year. I'll go ahead and I'll move him to the top. He also has gold shifty and silver takeoff, which are important. I got another guy here who's got sidestep, but I'm going to put him third, even though he's got 91 speed, because this guy here's got 4 physical abilities. So if I want to pound the rock, maybe in like short yard situations, he might be the best option with these. So I'll go and I'll have those guys there. Then when it comes to receiver, this is another position. Speed is king when it comes to receiver. The second most important would probably be something like the route running. But I'm not really going to worry about that too much. As you can see here, we have deep route running. Once again, threshold's probably 85. This guy here's got an 85 on both. My top receiver has the best short and mid route running on the entire team. But I don't really care about none of that. Like I said, once again, all I care about is speed and physical abilities. He has a bronze shifty and he has a 93 speed, so he can play. After that, we have a guy named Landon Sides who's got a silver shifty and he's also got a 96 speed, so he's going to be my number 2 receiver. After that, I have my choice here between Conwright, who has no abilities, Ward, who has no abilities, and they both have moderate speed with like a 90 speed. So I'm actually going to go way deep into the depth chart here and look for a receiver that has higher speed, as we actually have a guy hidden right here who's a freshman, which isn't great, but he's a 95 speed, which is great. So we're going to move him up. We're going to get rid of that 87 speed guy because that doesn't deserve to be on my field. And we're going to put this guy as my top 3. This is typically how I run my top 3, even though this guy's only 5'6". At the end of the day, I just want guys that can run past people, that can stretch the field, people that can catch a short pass and take it deep. And these are my 3 best guys for that. So that's going to be my top 3. And if I have a 4 wide receiver set, then I'll have Conwright on the field. At tight end, same thing. We got 2 81 speed guys. I'm going to have them as my top 2 guys. Unless I have a guy that's like a really good blocker, I might want as my second tight end. I want speed on the field at all times, and we have 2 81 speed tight ends. That's actually pretty good. I don't mess with my offensive linemen, but if I did, I'd make sure that speed's important here once again. Like a 39 speed left tackle is going to get roasted by a fast guy. I might rather put a guy like this who's got 72 speed. So speed's still important. If you run a pulling, trapping, blocking system where your guards, per se, like right here, we got a 70 speed guard. That's great. 58 speed. That's about the cutoff. You know what I mean? Like, I don't really worry too much because I don't really run a lot of pulling, trapping things. I mostly just run straight ahead blocking. But your edges, especially your left tackle, your right tackle, they have to be able to move, or else fast guys are just going to run around them. So, like I said, a 72 speed guy might be a better option. But other than that, just make sure you're putting the guys with, your pass blockers on the edge, your left and right tackle. They got to have high pass blocks, but your guards and your centers, you want them to have high run blocks. It's typically going to run up the middle, stuff like that. That's going to be the most important thing to look at. And when I say run blocks, I'll go ahead and I'll show you guys what I'm talking about, because there's like 4 different run block metrics, including, the actual impact block, which I'm not even sure where that is, as I'm trying to buy time here as we get to our run blocking. There we got pass blocking, footwork, pass blocking, power. I don't find that's as important, but like I said, just try to make sure that your tackles are the highest at these categories. And when it comes to your guards and your interior linemen, make sure they're good at run blocking. So going ahead, go through that. Like I said, I don't spend a ton of time with that. When it comes to your defensive line, you want fast guys rushing the passer. Speed's still very important. After that, you're going to want to make sure that you do, your pass block, finesse, and power moves are going to be important. But like I said, once again, I just go for speed mostly when it comes to these things. But let's take a look at what that actually looks like. Because we have pass block, power. You have power move, and then you have finesse move, which are going to be the most important. So you want to go high on those. But I also, like I said, speed is king to me. And I have a defensive tackle here who's pretty fast. Let's go all the way back to the speed category. This guy here, he's fine. Shipley's awesome. He's got 77 speed, I think, which is perfectly fine. When I get to the other side, though, we got a 66 speed guy. So I'm actually going to replace him with my backup defensive tackle, because most of the defenses I run only have 3 down linemen anyway, 2 edges and a DT. So I'm going to take this guy here. He's the fastest one. He's 83 speed. We're going to move him all the way up to the top. And I'm not really worried about his other attributes, because at the end of the day, if he can get off the block, he has a better chance with 83 speed of catching guys like Jalen Milroe and his 90 speed compared to just pretty much anybody else on my defensive line. So we need speed of the defensive line to try to corral those faster rushers. And then this guy here, he just has the most abilities on my squad, so he's going to stay in there. He's got 2 platinum abilities. So he's definitely staying in there. He's my best defensive player, period. When it comes to linebackers, once again, you're going to want to focus on whatever your defense is. If you run zone, you want guys with high zone. If you run man, you want guys with high man. So on a play like this, we'll go all the way to the end here. You can see we have a 76 zone player, which is good, but his backup's got a 72 zone, meaning that it's pretty negligible, but the main difference is speed. This guy here is way too slow to play on my team, because even with a good zone, he might get into a better position, but he's still too slow to get in that position fast enough with a 75 speed. So we're going to swap this guy out, even though he's 4 points lower. We're going to make him our starter because he's that much faster. He'll get to that spot that much faster because he doesn't lack physical ability. When it comes to middle linebacker, I pretty much am going to be using middle linebacker 90% of the game. So I want to make sure I have a fast, cheap speed guy. This guy here, 82, he's an 82 speed. He also, I saw he had like a 79 zone. So I want this guy to play by himself. He's probably my best linebacker. I don't want to user him. I want him to be roaming the field, putting those high attributes to use on his own. So I'm going to go for the fastest cheap speed guy, which in this scenario is Reuter, who is 84 speed. So he's going to be my starter. He's going to be my user. I'm going to use him a lot. Once again, most defenses I run don't have 2 inside linebackers. So that's going to be the setup. On the other side, once again, this guy here, Wazlowski, he's okay. 79 speed is not bad, but like I said, we still have our best player as far as speed available, our best linebacker. We're going to put him outside, let him run around. He also has a very high zone. When it comes to cornerbacks, once again, I'm going to look for a cheap speed guy. We want speed at the back end, especially at cornerback, because there's a threshold here where if you have like a 98, 97 speed guy, they're just going to run past everybody. If you can't match speed-wise, you're going to get cooked. So we want to make sure we have our fast guys. Once again, if I roll down here, once again, I have a 96 speed cornerback. Once again, a freshman, but he's a 96 speed cornerback. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to put him right here with this 89 speed guy. I'm going to take this guy out. This is a scenario where if I have 4 cornerbacks on the field, I'm most likely running a dime package where a guy like this is going to be blitzing anyway, so the speed's going to come really helpful off the edge. But I'm also going to switch this guy with this guy, and I might even go as far as to switch these 2 cornerbacks, period, depending on who I'm playing. If I'm playing somebody who has really fast receivers, like say I'm playing South Carolina with that guy Harbor, who's like a 99 speed at 6'5", I'm going to want to make sure that I have somebody that can keep up with him. So I'm going to put these 2 guys at the top 2 spots. But for now, I'm not really, until I see that being an issue, I'm just going to leave these guys like this, where I have my top cornerback as far as rating as the number 1. My second guy here who's negligible as far as the difference in cornerbacks at number 2 with the 97 speed. And like I said, if I really want to say I'm sending a corner blitz or something, I could always put this guy as my 3. There's a lot of different options here, but be aware of where your speed is. Same thing with safeties, though this isn't as important because typically safeties aren't solo one-on-one outside, which is where a lot of people will have that success. But I got a 92 speed guy here who's already good enough, and an 89 speed guy here. You want to be around 90 speed when it comes to your safeties if you can do that. But like I said, based off that I have 2 of the highest overall rated guys as well, I'm going to leave those 2 guys alone. You also want to make sure you got your fastest guy returning kicks, returning punts, because a lot of times you'll get an opening, but if you don't have a fast enough guy, it's not going to matter. So make sure you have all these things. And, you can even go as far, sometimes I'll go as far as to go slot receiver, sub-package linebacker, slot cornerback. These are all things I can do depending on the scheme that I'm running, where like on a look like this, I definitely don't want my backup safety as my slot corner. I would definitely rather one of these elite speed guys like Starling being my slot corner. So you can always check that stuff as well, because that will come in handy. But if your opponent doesn't give you a lot of time to set this up, that's understandable too. You might not get to these necessarily, but you can always do that in your manual substitutions as well. Now your next step is something you do before you even receive the kickoff, and that's going to be your coaching adjustments, which you can get by pushing in the right stick, as this will bring up your defensive coaching adjustment if you're receiving, but if you're kicking, it'll bring up your offensive coaching adjustment. So since I'm receiving here, I could do my coaching adjustments before I even start the game, before I even receive my first kickoff. Starting off with, once again, auto flip. I leave that off. I already went over that. Cornerback matchups, I typically leave the balance, but you can go by overall, you can go by depth chart, it really doesn't matter. But if somebody's really beating you with a speed receiver, you might want to go by speed, so just keep that in mind. Same thing with height, you might want to go by height. This is something I've all gone over in previous videos. As far as my defensive motion response, something that I typically do is I like to set up my blitz a certain way. I like to set up my defense a certain way, where I have my run fits and my blitz set up all a certain way, to the point where I don't want somebody motioning and messing that up. So I always take this off, I always disable that. When it comes to the read key and the pitch key, you always want to do the same thing. You want to try to turn the running back inside where all your help is. You don't want to allow them to the edge where there's only a cornerback and nothing but real estate. So we're going to set these to match that. So basically the read key, we want to make sure we're focusing on the quarterback, because that's the one that typically gets outside. Typically the running back goes up the middle, so we want to set that to conservative. And when it comes to the pitch key, we want to set that to aggressive, because this is going to focus on the pitch. Once again, letting the quarterback run with the ball inside is typically a less dangerous weapon, and he's also closer to your help, which is all the inside guys like your linemen, your linebackers, and your safeties. So that's typically where I'm going to go there. Also with strip ball, I'm typically going to go conservative, and with tackling, I'm going to go aggressive. That's because aggressive tackling doesn't have the chance of getting things like face mask penalties like the strip ball mechanic does. So if you have this on aggressive, you're going to get a lot of broken tackles and face mask penalties. So I go conservative to lower the chance of broken tackles, while this tackling being on aggressive can also basically make it so that you have a higher chance of broken tackles. But since I have this on conservative, it should balance out. And at the end of the day, I want to have one of these on aggressive to try to get some fumbles. So there is a chance that my computer can get hit stick fumbles this way. When it comes to zone drops, I don't mess with these. I typically run a lot of matching coverages, but if my opponent shows that he knows how to beat matching coverages, then I'll typically just like hard flat or something like that a lot of times to override it. But if I have an opponent who's beating me with like corner routes or something like that, I'll typically set these to 5 and set these to 25. But this is rare. This is if my opponent is playing at a level that I need to change these. That's pretty much the only time that I'll change them. Other than that, I'll typically always be on default, because I typically always run matching principles. And on offense, I don't really mess with none of these, with the exception of ball carrier, which I'll typically set to conservative if I'm running an offense where I'm running the ball with either receiver or especially the quarterback, because quarterbacks are designed to fumble at a much higher rate, making it more important to have it set to conservative, as that's going to be pretty much my number one rushing option when it comes to a lot of the offenses I run, like the bunch quads open, the empty quads, the empty base. These are 3 of my favorite offenses, and their only running option is typically the quarterback. Now for my last non-gameplay adjustment, I'm going to say the most important thing is to set your audible plays, and the formation I'm going to show this from is a gun tight open, which is an offense I just broke down in full. I'll have a link in the description as well as on screen at the end of the video if you guys want to check that out, as well as the defense that I showed you guys. But setting your audible plays in a formation like this, I got 18 plays. I'm going to set my 4 best, but there's a very specific purpose to the 4 that I'm going to set. I'm going to have 1 inside run, and I'm going to have 1 outside run, which will be the speed option. Because if your opponent's spreading the defensive line, a lot of times the inside zone's the best run because they're spread too far apart. And if they start to pinch to try to stop the inside zone, then I can threaten outside, which is something I'm going to look for every single play. When it comes to passing plays, I also want to make sure I have a good amount of dink and dunk plays, like the dig Z spot, which is something that I use quite a bit as an outside passing play, and the mesh spot, which is I'm going to use as an inside passing play. So you got inside, outside, in both run and pass. And then the 5th play, the way that I'm running this offense right now, you typically want to have a 1-play touchdown in your audibles. If you don't have it in your audibles, though, you can pick it as the active play. So I typically choose something like the halfback burst here. And basically, when I run this offense, I'm just going to look. First thing I'm going to try to do is run the ball every single time, or short passes, whatever's your favorite thing to do. But on a play like this right here, you can see they're spread out to the point where there's only 5 guys inside. So if I want to switch to the inside zone, I'm going to have a lot of success because I got 5 blockers. There's only 5 guys in the box. This is a really good option. But if I hit that a couple times and my opponent starts to pinch and try to take that away, then I can switch over to the outside play, which is the speed option. I also see the quarterbacks are back kind of far, so if I want to, I could switch to any of my run plays, like the dig Z spot. I can hit the running back on the flat. I have so many different options, but if you don't set your Audible Plays, you will never have that option. And last but not least, a lot of people also like to set Audible Plays in multiple formations, so that if you want to switch over to one of your other offenses, which is something that a lot of pro players do, I could easily switch over to something like the gun empty base, which you can see has the exact same double drag concept that I have here from the mesh. If I can make that audible right real quick, as you can see, we got the mesh spot right there. So if I want to, you know, switch over to another formation, you're going to see that I have a lot of the same options with my QB draw, with my inside cross. These are all very similar to what I was just showing you. And if I switch to the QB draw, you're going to see we're going to spread this defense out even further. But now there's only 4 guys in the box, which is why I like this offense, because I already have a one-man advantage. So you can see how you have a lot of options there, but like I said, making all those adjustments, I knew I would eventually get a penalty. Now, when it comes to defense, it's going to be the exact same thing. You're going to want to make sure that you have 4 plays that are all very different in your audibles. I typically go on defense, since I'm using the 3-3 mint, which has been pretty much one of my favorite defenses all year. I use the cover 3 cloud. You're going to want to have a blitz, which for me would be the overload 3 press. I'd still have a cover 3 behind it, which I really like. Palms is probably best when it comes to run defense, because the safeties will drop down in the box quicker than any other defense. It's also going to be best against RPO plays, because it'll play bubble screens very well, which is stuff I've showed in previous videos. Cover 6 is probably my favorite coverage. That's probably the one I'd come out in. But in this scenario, but since I have that in my audibles, a lot of times I'll come out in like something like the cover 3 Buzz Mabel, and then I'll basically, you know, I'll come out and show that, and then I'll switch to a different defense. So if I choose this Buzz Mabel, and then I want to switch to something else, you can see nobody moves. So that's another way to hide your defensive look. As you can see that, you know, I don't know what we're going to get here, because I'm really not too concerned with the result, but you can see how you can come out in one look and immediately change it. Another play that I think is a good audible could definitely be cover 2 man, which is something that I also can recommend over cover 4 palms, because if I'm being honest, I really don't use cover 4 palms. I just keep it there. Pinch buck 0 is another one that I'll keep in my audibles, but I don't always necessarily call. But yeah, that's really it. You just want to make sure you have a good diverse selection, because the majority of the time I'm switching plays. No matter what scheme I'm using, I'm constantly switching plays, so my opponent can never really get a beat on what he's seeing, and it makes it difficult for them to glitch it out, whether the one-play touchdown or whatever, as all these plays are going to be different. They're all different to the point where you're going to have to attack them in different ways. So I'm going to end the video there. If you guys want to see more from the offense and defense that I was showing in today's video, I'll have that pop up on my screen now, so just click the links. And until next time, thanks for watching, man. Unleash it out. Need more help or just want to show your support? Then head over to my Patreon and join my team, where you can get exclusive content like ebooks and bonus plays, as well as early access to my vids and more. Link in the description below.